Hello, we're looking at Android apps. In this video, we're taking a look at Spotkin Flutter. This is Answer Everywhere. Spotkin Flutter is a Flutter app written by Rivers Cuomo, who is an active GitHub contributor. Rivers Cuomo from the band Weezer has been coding for a while, and he wrote a Weezer-based song guessing game. He's written a few tools for like managing his life as a rock star, and he's also written a lot of tools for I guess you might call it managing songwriting. And I think that potentially that's where Spotkin fits in. Let's see, there's some, I don't know if the main one's called Spotkin server. Yeah, so here's the, let me move chat out of the way for just a moment. So here's the server. It's a Python package that updates one or more of your Spotify playlists every day with a random selection of songs from any playlist you specify. Here's mine. So we can click on this, and I think I can't actually see it because I'm not going to log in on this VM, although we can see it. So we've got some sushi in the banshees, Fat Butt, the Cocktail Twins, and a bunch of other stuff. Maisie Star, Eminem. So this is what Rivers is listening today. And I'm guessing, and Rivers, let me know if this is not correct. I'm guessing that the part of the goal here is to ensure that he's exposed to a bunch of different musical influences, because that's the sort of thing that you want to have when you're writing a song. When you're doing any sort of creative endeavor, you want to keep managing your the input, the stuff that you consume, because what your brain is doing is essentially a sort of averaging or smoothing operation over a lot of the stuff you've consumed. And so if you want to keep your output fresh, and I think he's done a good job of keeping his output fresh. You want to make sure that your input is also fresh. And so one way to do that is to randomize over like a really large area. So we saw like a bunch of rap, there was some rock, presumably lots of pop music from all different periods. And so I don't know what the server is doing. I'm guessing the server is looking up some Spotify playlist that somehow enumerates the universe of possible songs, applying some sort of shuffle operation, and reordering the playlist and like resaving it. There may be like a parent playlist that so that you never, if the server crashes and you've only reorganized half of it, you don't want to like lose some of the stuff in the universe playlist, or maybe some of the songs are hard coded or something. I don't know, but we're going to not look at the server. We're going to look at the Flutter app. And I'm not sure really what this app is going to do. It's the Flutter web frontend for Spotkin, currently developed here. I think I clicked on this before, and it was requiring me to log into Flutter before I could see, Spotify before I could see anything. So I'm not sure what the app looks like. So it says right now we can log into Spotify through our website. So we should see some sort of API call to Spotify. You can set a target playlist. Must be a playlist you own. So this is what I was calling the universe. I guess in the code or at least in the documentation, that'll be called the target. Set any number of playlists. Oh, no. I'm wrong. The target playlist is the playlist that will contain the randomized stuff. Set any number of public playlists to source from. So I guess there's not a God playlist. There is a God list, a list of sources. I don't know if these are like typically going to be in this example like playlists that are his own, or they might just be playlists he's found by searching the public playlists, and the quantities of tracks to pull. And again, I don't know if that's like here's this playlist for high BPM songs for running. Maybe I only want to pull a few of those, but here's this other playlist of like masterpieces written in the last 80 years, I maybe want to pull more of those. I don't know if that's something that's per public playlist or if it's something you set and it applies to all of them, but we'll see that. And then you click a button to update your playlist with the tracks from the source playlists. Okay, so this is for, I'm guessing that day to day he probably uses this for like adding new playlists or removing playlists that have turned out to be dogs or that he's just tired of or whatever. And then to run locally, he gives you some stuff. He's using VS Code. Essentially, the front end replaces the old spreadsheet method of storing and editing Spotkin jobs. So there's this spreadsheet. And this is actually probably somewhat useful to look at. So we have this. I was hoping I could expand this, but I don't know if I can. So the source playlist, this is some either URL or possibly just the playlist ID. These seem like URLs. These seem like maybe they're IDs. And Rivers Rad. Maybe I'm just too zoomed in. Is this Rivers Radius? Rivers Radio, and then River Size. Maybe River Size is exercise. And so the playlists have names like albums I'm checking out, New Music Friday, 500 albums. I'm curious about 500 albums. I don't know if this is a public playlist. The 500 greatest albums. I don't know if this is the same one. Was it 4 blah 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 4i3q ending in CW? No. But what if I just take this URL and plop in this? I must enable DRM. Yeah, it's just 500 albums, and Rivers Cuomo is, I assume this is the owner of the playlist. We've got BB King, The White Stripes. Okay, cool. And then liked songs picks. Presumably he's liked some songs, and maybe this is some subset of them. New Music Friday picks, nostalgia, 70s love songs, lots of 70s stuff, new metal, mellow classics, big on the internet. I'm pretty curious about big on the internet. He's trying to stay, people got to buy his albums. So alt stuff from the 2000s, 80s, and 90s. Broadway, some show tunes. I guess if you're doing some like power pop stuff, you may want to draw from some Broadway stuff. Low priority. And these may be the counts of songs to pull in. So Broadway maybe just pulls in one song. I don't know. Chorus music, classic punk, hot country, hyper pop, etc., etc. Elliott Smith has his own section. He's set to 0. Then upcoming set list and workout pop. All right, cool. Big on the internet. Big dogs, Apple. Okay. So that's this is the spreadsheet. I am going to keep this spreadsheet around just in case I need to refer to it to sort of understand the logic of what this app is doing. And there's web support. So this seems to be primarily a web client. And I think that he says this, a Flutter web front end. So I don't know if he has like an Android client. There doesn't seem to be an Android folder, but everything's in lib. We have screens, models, services, widgets. This seems to be using the same layout structure that FinAmp was using. We do have some services. We have appcore.dart and main.dart, and underscore archive is what? It may be equivalent to like commenting out code. I'm not sure what archive is about. We do have some issues. How to auto run once in 24 hours, etc. Okay. Opened 2 days ago. It's kind of wild. So this seems to be under active development. And it seems to be working from an issue list. This is kind of cool. All right. So we'll ignore the archive stuff. I don't know whether that stuff is important. Here's main.dart. You're setting up some service locator. I don't know if we're using a like a library for service locations. We're setting a URL strategy, which is the path URL strategy. So I guess it's like the strategy pattern. And I kind of want to know whether this is like a service locator library or something else. Okay, so service locator is some like a hash map. I assume that a map in Flutter is a hash map and not some sort of like fancy tree or trie, like I think it is in Haskell. But so I'm going to call it a hash map from string to dynamic. I guess dynamic maybe being like a dynamically typable thingamajig, and you give it some config, and he's going to use get it. So get it is the service locator library I was talking about before. And he's going to register a lazy singleton of Spotify service. It's going to be set to Spotify service with the client ID. It looks like these are pulled from the shell on whatever machine is running the server. And so the client ID, the client secret, the redirect URI. I don't know what the Spotify redirect URI is, but some redirect URI and a scope, maybe the scope for an access scope. What's it called? Like OIDC, OIDC Connect or OpenID or one of those things. And we also register a lazy singleton for storage service. So storage service is presumably going to store stuff on disk. I'm not sure really what there is to store on disk for the web front end. Conceptually, okay, yeah, I do know it. So all the stuff that's in the spreadsheet has to be now stored on disks. So the identities of the public playlists, how many songs to pull from each playlist, all that stuff needs to be stored here. But a lot of the state is of course some of the state will be managed, I think, by the Python app, and then what you might think of as the bulk of the state is really just managed by Spotify by reordering the playlists. We have a recipe widget and a settings card. So I wanted to see what the storage service was about. So here's the storage service .dart. So we have this get jobs thing, and we're going to look in the local storage of the browser with the storage key, and we'll get stored jobs. So I guess this is storage that like goes away if you like delete your browser data. And if there's no jobs, then we don't have to worry about it. Otherwise, we're going to parse jobs, which is going to give us a list of jobs, and maybe the jobs are stored in something like JSON. And we're going to iterate over the jobs, and we're going to print the job target playlist name. So that's the name. If I'm understanding the naming convention correctly, that's going to be the playlist that will contain all of the random songs. Let me move this chat aside for a moment. And some recipe count. So maybe the recipe is the thing that tabulates how many of each song, how many of each source playlist to add to the target playlist. And then we're just going to return those jobs. That's just getting the jobs, parsing them, figuring out what the ingredients are. And then save jobs is presumably going to do the reverse. We're just going to save all the stuff. Add job. We'll add a job to jobs and resave it. So naively, you would think this is going to, if save jobs just appended stuff, this would save multiple versions of the save job, but there's probably code here to make sure that you're overwriting something. And we are saving in JSON, which was my conjecture. So save jobs will do what? So we'll JSON encode the jobs by calling jobs map the job to JSON to list. I don't know why. Oh, okay. So I was just misparsing it. So I guess we JSON encode each job, and then the collection of jobs is mapped to a list, maybe? Or we have to map each one to a list in order to concatenate them or something along those lines. And at any rate, we get a string of encoded jobs, which I guess is like a string of that encodes a list. And we're going to write that to local storage with the storage key. So we're just overwriting anything that was there as opposed to appending. Okay, and then update jobs. Update job will presumably just update the thing. So you're passing a job, you're getting its index. So you're looking at its target playlist ID. So maybe you can only have one job for target playlist. Or no. This seems to be, yeah. It seems like there's one index where that has a specific target playlist ID. If it's -1, then it doesn't exist. If it's not -1, then we set the jobs at that index to the new job and we save the jobs. You can also delete job. You can get job by playlist ID, which is consistent with what we just decided, which is that each, I guess, target playlist has only a single job. And then you can parse jobs, which is just essentially calling JSON decode with some error handling. So what we don't know yet is what the jobs do. Let's find out how the jobs are like executed. Here's the sample jobs, so we can see the format of the JSON. So the example is Spotify. Example playlist 1. It has some playlist ID. Presumably this is the target playlist. These are the songs that I'm listening to today. That's what we saw when we opened up his playlist. And remove low energy is false. So he has some way of, I assume this is something he's done and not something that Spotify exposes. But some way of deciding that songs are maybe going to bring him down. He doesn't want to deal with them. And we have last track IDs. I'm not sure what this is for, but maybe this is the last track that was played. Here's some songs that will not be on there, like Khaled. I've never actually pronounced this guy's name. DJ Khaled. The Beatles, Halsey, the Beach Boys, Devo, Big Sean, E40, Big Boy, Gang of Four, and My Bloody Valentine. Since the Beatles and the Beach Boys and Devo are on here, I'm guessing that at least some of these are artists that he's like heard a lot, and these are not necessarily banned because he doesn't like them. Maybe he doesn't like them. I don't know, but they might be banned because he likes them so much that they're overplayed, or in a previous time he liked them so much that they were overplayed. I don't remember who Halsey is. Okay, so some singer from New Jersey. Okay, and then we have band song titles. Should I Stay or Should I Go? High Hopes, Blister's on Waiting Room, Psycho Killer, Sweet Jane, Generals and Majors, and Marquee Moon. Marquee Moon's a television song, I believe. So I guess television is not banned, but it's as a band. It's not banned as a band, but it is. This particular song is banned. And similarly, Psycho Killer is Talking Heads. Talking Heads doesn't seem to be banned, but it's not going to show up on this playlist. This particular song. Okay, and then there are banned track IDs and banned genres, like Colombian pop. I don't know what many of these are. Plug NB. And I don't know how exceptions. There may be some exceptions to ban genre. So like Eminem gets an exception, Kendrick Lamar gets an exception. I don't know which genre he's in. But then we have some recipe. So the recipe is the source playlist name is albums I'm checking out. Here's the ID, I guess, of the playlist, the source playlist. In this case, there's only one source, although you can see that the recipe has multiple, as it is a list, so it has space for multiple stanzas, and quantity 10. So it's pulling in 10 songs from this job. And there's some config here. And he's not going to give us his Spotify login, which is good. It seemed like the playlist we were looking at had more than 10 songs. So let's see if that's I mean, this is just a sample job. It's not necessarily the job that's actually being used to populate this playlist. So this one has like 56 songs. They seem to all have been added on the same day. So I'm guessing that this might be like that config might have been some starting point, and then tweaked over time, which is why you need the front end, I guess, to tweak it. Here's recipe widget.dart. So this is some widget for managing the recipes. The recipes are the list essentially of source playlists and how many to pull from each one. I don't know if the banned stuff is also part of the recipe, but at any rate, the recipe is a stateful widget and what? We've got a list of initial ingredients, some, I guess, callback for when the ingredients change, a list of jobs, an update job function, and then the state of the recipe widget has a list of ingredient rows. Whoopsie. The Spotify service, which we're grabbing from Get and init state is going to init ingredient rows. So this is presumably going to be some scrollable list of ingredients. I'm not sure I understand what an ingredient is yet. Maybe it's just one of the things in the recipe. We have this add new row function. If job.recipe.any ingredient. So if in the job, we're going to look at the recipe. And if any of the ingredients have a playlist ID that matches the playlist ID we're working with, then we'll say this playlist is already in the recipe. Okay, so that's sort of like a failure mode if we're trying to add new row on something that's already in there. I thought this was the end of the function, but this is just the end of this if block. And then so we create a new ingredient with the playlist and quantity of 5. I guess it's like the default quantity. Call update job. And we'll copy the job with the new ingredient. So we saw what storage service update job did. Is just like sets the fields And we'll call set states. Set state with adding the ingredient row to the ingredient rows. So that's just going to add it to the rows of this widget. And then init ingredient row is presumably just going to walk over the existing rows. So widget initial ingredients map each ingredient to an ingredient row with some quantity controller. I don't know what a quantity controller is, but we're going to take the ingredient quantity as a string. And maybe you can, maybe the quantity controller lets you do things like increase or decrease the quantity, like by clicking up or down or something. And then we're going to also, the playlist will be part of it. And we'll say whether we updated the widget. Something about handling dismiss. You can, I guess, swipe left or right, or at least swipe right to confirm and remove the ingredient. And so this is some dismiss thing. I assume this is part of Flutter and not like another library. Intent, swipe to dismiss. Okay, so this is just handling like the gesture to dismiss. There's stuff about confirming to delete. Left swipe to set the quantity to 0. That's like a reset without removing the ingredient, I guess. And so on. When you remove the ingredient, you call set state and say that you removed it, and you update the job. I think update job could probably be called outside of set state, but that's probably doesn't matter for an app like this. So build quantity dropdown is going to probably build the quantity dropdown with the ingredients in the rows. So this is maybe for like setting a new quantity. So it's width is size 70. It's a drop down button form field. The value is we're going to try to parse an int of 5, which I think is the default. And items will be a list of, I guess, 21 numbers. List that generate 21 index. Where is index? Oh, okay. So I'm guessing this is like starting at the index. We'll maybe have like 21 numbers below so that you can scroll down and set them or something along those lines. I don't really know what list generate and drop down menu item do, but that's just a guess of the sort of thing it might be doing. Then we have an onChanged callback, and which is pass the value. If the value is null, sorry, the value is non-null, then we call set state, setting the quantity controller.text to the value as a string, and we call update jobs and storage with the index and the value because we've changed on the UI. I believe what we're doing is we're changing the number of songs to pull from a playlist, and that's got to write that change to the storage. And then we have a validator that just is saying, this is a Flutter thing that says, that allows you to easily state that if you try to input a nonsensible quantity, then it'll have an error message. Oh, update jobs and storage is, I guess, not something we looked at, but is presumably calling stuff that we looked at. And then this seems to be maybe the overall widget. We have a column that is aligned at the start, and some rows, and some icons, and the add icon, so like the plus sign, I believe. And when it's pressed, you're going to show a modal bottom sheet that is scroll controlled. And the modal bottom sheet has a builder, I guess, which is the search bottom sheet. And when an item is selected, if the item is a playlist simple, we'll add a new row with the item. And the get jobs dot first. I don't know why dot first, but I guess maybe get jobs returns like a tuple type of object, and we only want the first part of the first like the name of the playlist or something, or the ID. And then the search types is search type.playlist. It says add a playlist. So this seems to be some sort of search functionality. I don't know if show modal bottom sheet is something that he has implemented. Search bottom sheet. Using the bottom sheet. The bottom sheet has become a very popular place for quick interactions that do not require a full screen to do, such as signing up for a newsletter. This is some search function. I'm guessing you I'm guessing that it's you essentially provided a list, and as you type, it'll maybe choose from the list. Use the show modal bottom sheet function. So I can't find search bottom sheet. Maybe it's something here. Yeah. Seems to be something that he's implemented. So search bottom sheet extends stateful widget. It has on item selected these search types, whether to use playlist only in a title. And it's got some state, like the text editing controller. Which is a search controller, which is a text editing controller, and the Spotify service. And so I guess it's searching Spotify maybe. And the list of search results, which is dynamically typed, and whether it's loading. And so when we init state, we if we've set, I thought this said use playlist only, but I guess it's user playlist only. So if we are asking to use only user playlists, then we call fetch user playlists. Otherwise, we have this widgets binding thing. We'll add a post frame callback, and we'll add a listener. And if search controller text is not empty, we'll perform search. Okay, so I guess this is waiting until you've entered something in the search or searchy bar, and when you have, it'll call perform search. But it seems like the user playlist only thing doesn't do that. Presumably, because searching something as large as all of the Spotify public playlists is much more costly. So fetch user playlist will have this is loading thing set to true. That's like that's presumably a state that will display something like a spinny waiting icon. And it'll call Spotify service.get user playlists, and it will set state with the results. Then perform search. We'll get the query text, and if it's empty, then we'll set the search results to nothing. And we'll say we are loading, and we will try to call Spotify service.search with the query and setting some widget types, or rather, if the widget search types is populated, I guess we send them. And I'm guessing this question mark is like a ternary sort of operator, except binary. And so I'm guessing this means maybe if the search type is null, then we're searching for tracks, artists, and playlists. Let's start double question mark. It means if null, then take the following expression. Yeah, okay. So it's equivalent to like in ternary operator, it'd be like if widget.searchTypes is non-null, I forget where it goes, question mark widget search types, and then followed by this or whatever. Okay, and then set state. So we attempt to do the search. Assuming it doesn't error out, we will set the state to the search results cast to a list. We're limiting it to 20. I was going to ask about that, but there it is. And we'll say that is loading as false. And we may have an error, in which case we're going to log it and set the search results to 0. And this is a builder for building items. Building list items. So these should be the things that go into the list. And we have title, subtitle. These are set to unknown. An image URL, whether it's an artist. And if it's a track, we have this kind of like dispatch logic. If it's a track, we do this stuff. If it's an artist, we do this stuff. We may have images and so on. There's some leading widget. I don't know what the leading widget is going to be. But if the image URL is non-empty and it's an artist, okay, here we go. Then the leading widget is a circle avatar with radius 25 with the background image is a network image of image URL. I'm guessing network image will take care of pulling that URL for you and caching it. Display images from the internet. Let me see if network image is something he did. Here we go. I don't know what painting.dart is. The painting library. I'm not sure if this is... I don't know if it's by the Flutter / Dart team or if it's a third party. There's paintings of libraries. That's always good. What is it? Pub.dev maybe? The Flutter painting library. I think it is maybe the Flutter team. Okay, so I'm going to guess this is an official Flutter library. I'm not positive. And this is just some class that fetches the thing. The image will be cached, regardless of cache headers from the server. Cool. Okay. Maybe we looked at... Wait, I think that's what we were actively looking at. Okay, and then so we might handle some error. And then we have some container that's a child. We have the circle avatar. And then we have a child container, which is a box decoration, which is a circle. And I don't know, it is a child, but maybe it's a circle around the avatar. I don't know. And if we don't have an image, then we have some clipped rectangle with, I guess, a music note icon or something along those lines. We've got this image network from an image URL. Oh, I guess we only have the circle avatar if it's an image of the artist. Otherwise, it might be like an image of the album. I don't know what a song image would be. Maybe the song is also an image of the album the song was on or something. And the fallback is the icon's just a music note. And they return a list tile, so a thing from a list that goes in a visual widget display. And that's what we populate the widget with, I think. And here's the overall implementation. That's cool. There's lots of good stuff in here. I think that I'm just about ready to stop looking at this, except I want to see a little bit about what's going on with this. Oh, hang on. App core is just exporting stuff. I wanted to see what's going on with the Spotify API. I'm guessing there might be Spotify may have published an API in Dart or I guess it just has to be in Dart. It doesn't have to be in Flutter. But this also might be a custom implementation. So we have some API service that has an access token and a backend URL. And we've got this process jobs thing. It's going to return a future of a list between maps, a list of maps from strings to dynamic. I forget what the map from string to dynamic was, but essentially we have a list of them and it's an async thing, so it's going to return a future. Oh, so the results are each result, I guess, is a map from string to dynamic. So then we're going to iterate over the jobs. This is the function I think I was hoping I would see eventually. I totally forgot about. So for job and jobs, we're going to try some stuff and then catches down here. This is just going to add an error to the results. What are we going to try to do? We'll set the URL to the backend URL /process job. Backend, I guess, in this case is not the Spotify backend, it's the Spotkin backend. The response will be, we're going to await http.post, the parsing of the URL. Can URI.parse not fail? I guess maybe if it fails, it'll just raise an exception, right? Okay, so headers with the bearer token, application JSON, etc. The body, we're going to JSON encode the job. There's a separate to JSON for post request. So I guess the network format is maybe different from the format that we write to the disk. I'm guessing this is a custom method, unless there's a reason why this is in general. Let's try this again in the right repo. Yeah. I'm not sure how this differs from what's stored on disk, but it differs in some way. It might be a minor difference. And then we just set some timeout, so it'll fail after waiting for a minute. And if the response code is 200, then we've succeeded. We'll decode the response body, and that will add to the results the target playlist name, the success, and the response data, and we'll build up a list of results in that way. So that's the API service.dart. That's communicating, I guess, with the Spotkin API. And we have Spotify service. And we are importing package Spotify/Spotify.dart. So this seems to be a Dart library created by the Spotify people. We've got Flutter secure storage. I'm guessing that's where it's going to store the access token and the refresh token. Spotify is late binded. And the Spotify service configuration has a client ID, client secret, redirect URI, etc. And we'll check authentication. Calling ensure authenticated. Await Spotify.me.get. Me is presumably like the user that's calling. Initialize Spotify will retrieve credentials, probably from the secure storage. And if they're null, we have some error. And then if this succeeds, we'll call update Spotify instance, which will create the Spotify API object, passing in the credentials that we successfully fetched. And we've got this verify token thing. And I'm not sure why the client needs to verify, but we can exchange code for token. You give it a code and you get some sort of token back. I'm not sure what a code is. In this case, this seems to be just stuff about the Spotify API. I'm kind of curious what gets stored in secure storage. So Flutter secure storage seems to be a package. by Steen Backer. So I think probably on Android and iOS, it uses the secure element. I'm not sure what goes on in the browser. Configure web version. It uses an experimental implementation using web crypto. Use at your own risk. What is web crypto? This feature is only available in secure contexts, HTTPS, in some or all supporting browsers. Warning, the Web Crypto API provides a number of low-level cryptographic primitives. Yeah, I'm not sure what that's about. May just be software-based crypto. It may have some support for like a hardware element. And secure storage seems to mainly be for the access token. And I think we saw elsewhere that it read the the secret API key from the shell. That's essentially passed in from the shell, I believe. Client secret. See if it's fetched anywhere. Yeah, okay, Spotify client secret. Or maybe it's in the config. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, I guess it's like persisted to JSON somehow, but not here. This is the public version. All right, I think that's it for Spotkin Flutter. That was cool. That was, I feel like I learned a lot about Flutter from looking at that code, and I'm really impressed with what he's been doing. So, do I have some plans to read services written in Golang? I'm just playing it by ear. Really, I wanted to look at Android apps. So, short answer is no. I don't have plans yet. I'm probably going to go week by week in terms of what I want to read. I wanted to look at Android apps because that's sort of where I'm. It'll be based on what I'm doing, like writing code. So right now I'm trying to figure out Android and Flutter. So that's why I wanted to look at some Android repos. Next week, I might be stuck on some problem, or maybe stuck or wanting to understand some problem better, et cetera, et cetera. So I normally don't go based on what the language is, but certainly we've looked at lots of Golang stuff, and we will do more in the future, but I don't have anything like on the horizon. All right. Thanks so much. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend.